Hello, and thank you for joining us for our BNI San Diego podcast. I'm really excited today. I have with us David Jacobson. Welcome, David.
Thank you. Nice to be here.
David Jacobson is on our BNI San Diego team. You're one of our area directors. David, what do you do for when your day job, so to speak?
Oh, my day job is I sell business insurance.
Business insurance.
Exciting world of business insurance.
So is that commercial business type insurance?
Yes, exactly. I tell people in insurance I do everything but life, health, and personal, and your home.
Okay, gotcha.
So everything else I can take care of.
So for all of us business owners, you're the guy that we go to for everything.
Absolutely.
So David, what are we going to talk about today?
Well, I've been thinking about this, and what better topic than intentionality?
Ooh, it's one of my favorites.
There's all kinds of things that we can talk about in being intentional. And before we started, I mentioned about insurance.
Yeah.
And insurance, if you're not intentional, you get yourself in a lot of trouble in a hurry because insurance policies expire. And if you're not thinking ahead of the game, then they expire and businesses have their own changes. But that's not really what I'm
So wait a minute, they expire every year?
Oh, yeah. So every year, the insurance all has a 1 year life to it. And the insurance companies do that on purpose because who knows what changes.
On both parts, right? Because in the insurance industry right now, it's very relevant. They're going through a lot of adjustments, so to speak.
Oh, well, we're in a lovely turmoil stage here in insurance, and we could take up your whole podcast on just the lovely beauties of commercial insurance. But we're pretty much in the toilet right now, and everybody's having a problem. And the big ones we know about, the Palisades fire,
Yeah.
and State Farm Insurance not renewing all these insurance policies. Well, that's had this huge ripple effect.
Got it.
Throughout the whole industry. And so, yeah, it's pretty lovely here in insurance right now.
So the word intentionality or in being intentional is incredibly important because it helps us. When I think of the word intentional, I think of very focused, right? Where you're really paying attention to something and kind of moving in a direction. So let's kind of talk about, this area of intentionality, particularly in the area of goal planning.
Perfect.
For businesses, we're interacting with our local professionals, whether it's here in San Diego or across America. Being a business owner, having very intentional goals is incredibly important. Having goals, let's put it that way.
Let's just
start with goals. Yeah, right. Why is it important for a business person to actually have a goal?
Well, not just a business person, even in your own personal life. You
Okay,
should have a goal. And I think of this quote from Lewis Carroll that if you don't know where you're going, any road can take you there. And the same happens. We hear about people who are lost in their life.
Yeah.
We hear about businesses who are just drifting along, and it's because they don't have a goal where they're going to. They haven't set themselves
a
up
destination.
A destination, exactly. And they haven't created a roadmap for that. And you talked about goal planning, and that is one of the things that we do in San Diego that makes. I think we've seen incredible growth in the chapters
since we again being very intentional with bringing it into our chapters and actually making it a part of a full meeting twice a year to intentionally spend that 90 minutes focused on our goals, focused on the direction that the chapter wants to go in. Because let's face it, if you don't, like you said, any road will do.
Yeah, and I've shared this with you also. We had, in the chapters that I've supported, we had incredible conversations when we started talking about the metrics of the numbers of where we want to be and the actions that we want to take to get there, the activities that we do to get there.
So,
I mean, just incredible conversations where people have gone in with one set of assumptions and completely changed their whole attitude or where they wanted to come out on the other end. And it was transformative. Not that I don't really like that word, but it really was transformative. How the chapter, and every chapter has its own culture. Every chapter has its own people. How everybody interacts, and it was incredible to see the interaction among the members. They got to actually tell the other members what is going on in their own mind and where they wanted to be the chapter, where they wanted to see the chapter end up being.
Well, I think the interesting thing is, and when you think of goal planning, for a lot of people, it's a very private thing, right? In December, I go away to a cabin, or I spend some time in my office and I write down. Dr. Meisner talks a lot about when, every year he spends that time away, and it's typically the business owner by themselves, or if they have a key team member or a business partner, they will spend some time writing out their goals, their aspirations for, that new destination where they want to get. What I love about what you're talking about, one of the things that we do here in San Diego is this element of goal planning twice a year, where it's not just one or two people, it is an entire group of 20, 30, 40, 50, 60 plus people coming together to create a goal for where that chapter wants to be. And when you have that kind of a brain, I don't know what the term is, but like a
mass mind
yeah,
brain.
Yeah, right. Because now you're getting input from different directions, and you mentioned a few minutes ago about how when you're thinking about your goals, sometimes you actually end up going in a different direction than you thought, but that's because you're talking through with different people. So having that brain consortium, or whatever the term you want to use,
mentality going
right,
on
it makes a big difference.
Well, one of the things that I talked about when I came on, when I go into the chapters and we talk about this, is there's new members.
Yep.
There's seasoned members who don't know
different
why
stages,
we're doing
right?
it.
Yeah.
And a lot of people, some of the seasoned members don't get why we do goal planning, even though we've been doing it for a number of years. And the conversation from my end starts with, why do we want to be intentional? Why are we doing this? What's the reasoning behind it? And intentionality makes us more efficient, and it makes us more effective, which is what we're looking for, which is the reason why we do the goal planning. Mm-hmm. We want to, and I remember before we had goal planning, when I was the president, what are we going to do for activities next week? Or the educational, when I did the educational coordinator, what do I want to talk about next week? Well, goal planning takes that element of, I guess, for lack of a better term, surprise.
We become we systematize the process.
That's a great word.
That's
right?
A
great word, yes.
And when you create that system, things don't fall through the cracks. One of our directors, one of our individuals, Andy Cruz, who we both know, many years ago in San Diego, created the President's Playbook.
Mm-hmm. I remember.
Right. And this is a 1-page document where as a president, or as a leadership team, or as a chapter success team, as we call the entire team now, it lets everybody know that, what the game plan is for that particular meeting. And when you take the guesswork out of everything, it makes everything just so much easier.
It allows, in the case that they're talking about with Andy, it allows Andy, or the president, to focus on being the president of the chapter.
Versus trying to figure out what are we doing next, or
what's coming up next?
Yeah.
What do I have to worry about? Is this person going to be ready? He knows they're going to be ready.
Yeah.
So he can bring full energy into his meeting.
And actually having everyone headed in the same direction, the education coordinator, all of the things focused on a particular area. And again, that goes back to that word intentionality.
Yeah. Planning for success for the chapter.
Ooh. So you used a word a few minutes ago that I know that when I came in and was learning the goal planning process, and that there were words that I've heard before, but it's like I needed some clarity on them. You used a word like mechanism.
Oh, okay.
For someone who doesn't do goal planning like we do goal planning or whatnot, what's a mechanism? What does that mean?
With the numbers, right?
Okay.
So the mechanisms that we talk about are goal planning numbers. Where do we want to be as far as a chapter size? And we'll go back real brief. We all hopefully know what the power of one is. I
always laugh because we say power of one and I hold up 5 fingers.
Yeah.
Right. So, and that is and this is, again, today we're being a little more BNI centric. So the power of one is 1 referral per week.
Yep.
1 meeting per week.
Correct.
one referral per week, one CEU or chapter education unit per week, and then one visitor per month. So that is in BNI. That's what we call the power of one.
Yeah, and one of the funny things about that those 5 items, the one item that we usually overlook is one meeting a week.
Yes,
that is the biggest indicator of how many referrals we're going to get out of the chapter. Is showing up,
right? As the saying goes, that's half the battle is showing up.
So we have this power of one, and this is we sort of set that as what we would like the minimum goal for each chapter to do.
Yeah.
Whether we get there or not, that's the individual chapters to decide. So we set intentionally where we want to be. Are we better at doing chapter educational units? We'll set that number higher. Are we really good at passing referrals? Well, we'll set that number higher than just one per week. And we have chapters. I've got one chapter. I did goal planning with one chapter. They have almost 2 one-to-ones.
Oh wow! So they're almost the power of 2.
They're almost at the power of 2. They they get together so often. They have so many mini meetings to create referrals for each other that this is just now ingrained in their chapter culture.
Well, and what I love about the power of one, it is our benchmark.
Yes,
it is. You know, when we think of goals, our benchmark goal is the power of one.
And the beauty of that is you're not competing against somebody else. You're only competing against yourself.
Oh, I'm always talking to matter of fact, we just had a swim meet last weekend, and I was talking to my daughter, Abigail, who some of you already know from being on the podcast. And we were talking about, because sometimes she gets down on herself if, you know, the swimmers next to her or ahead of her, or, you know, where they are, and always trying to remind her it's about you and your last swim meet.
Yes.
Are you a little bit better every time?
That's one of the hardest things about individual sports like swimming.
Yeah.
Where, yes, you're in competition with other people, but really the competition is internally with yourself.
And a lot of it is mindset.
Oh, yeah.
And again, you got mindset, intentionality. You've got these key elements as business owners. I know as a business owner, and you are as well, to know that it's easy to get down on ourselves. We're not meeting our goals. We're not, there. So, you know what? And I've actually heard people say, I don't want to be so lofty in my goals because we are far from it right now. So why don't we instead of our benchmark of power of one, let's go below the benchmark because we're so far from our goal, right? How do you?
There's a great quote, and I can't remember who had it. The problem in business is not that we meet our goals, but that we made our goals so low, we should always be reaching for the stars. So again, power of one is what we're doing internally. Yeah. It's what we want to strive for. So you want to strive for being a better BNI member, or you want to strive for being a mediocre BNI member? And do you want a mediocre BNI member in your chapter?
As a referral partner?
Do you want somebody who's not going to do the work to be successful in BNI? One of the problems that people have with BNI is they don't treat this as serious as they do their business. This is your sales force. And this used to be something we talked about. Ivan talked about all the time. This is your sales force. If you had your sales force and you met with them once a week, what would you do differently than you're doing in BNI? Well, a lot of people don't treat their BNI chapter like their sales force. They just treat them as their coffee clutch.
Or another meeting that I have to go to.
Or another meeting that I have to go to. Boy, we hear that a lot, don't we?
And how do we help people, again, if we're talking about intentionality, particularly around goal planning and setting goals as business owners, how do we help someone that is struggling, that has struggled either meeting their goals, or they're looking at themselves and they're going through a storm, right? There's things that happen. There's life elements that happen all the time. How do you work with someone that is in the midst of a storm and ends up being the what was the Eeyore, right?
Don't blame me if it rains.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly, right? How do you work with that? Or encourage someone rather that's going through that.
So somebody who's having a real difficulty meeting their power of one.
Yeah.
If it's been a long time problem, then it's not a momentary issue. It's just they need to get to do the work. And how successful do they want to be in BNI? How much do they plan it all in their own business? And if they're not planning on their own business, maybe they can take the lessons from BNI, planning in BNI, and apply that to their own business. But if it's a shock, they're overwhelmed at work. Somebody left the company and now they have 2 desks to take care of, or some personal tragedy that they have. Well, BNI is their support system, and you should lean on the BNI people. And it's hard. Let me tell you, Ed, I can't do it. I have a hard time leaning on people. I have a hard time delegating. But really, this is your family.
So I think, and maybe we're using the wrong words. Instead of thinking about leaning on someone, maybe we lean in too.
Oh yeah,
right. Because it's a different. We don't want to put the burden. When we think of leaning on someone, we think of putting the burden on someone.
Your BNI partner.
When we think of leaning in, that's more of a collaboration. That's more of a, hey, there are people around me that are willing to help me through the storm or whatever I'm going through. And that's the beauty of having that collective, what did we call it? Collective
hive.
Yes, the hive. Yeah.
The hive.
Yeah.
Well, you have people who, let's say they're struggling in business. And you get this a lot of times. So they say, hey, I'm really struggling in business. And maybe they're thinking of not renewing their membership. And I don't know if that was the direction that you were getting at. But this is when they should actually lean on BNI the most. The reason being is the chapter members, the people who are in the room. You may have heard me say this. Personally, I don't think BNI is a referral business.
Oh,
I think BNI is a relationship business.
Absolutely, 100%.
You get referrals from the relationships that you make in BNI, and this is the power of this business. That when you're having problems in your business, getting business, everybody in the chapter wants you to succeed. Everybody. And they're looking for an excuse to come help you out. And when you say lean in, this is what they want to do.
Yeah.
Have a one-to-one with somebody, which is the meetings that we have outside the BNI chapters, and tell them what's going on. And I almost I had a one-to-one last week, and between the two of us, we found 4 potential referral partners. And
in one one-to-one together?
One-to-one. And for each of us.
Oh, wow.
And I didn't, when I went into the meeting, I didn't even know that I had any referrals for this person. It's like, oh, yeah, I need to talk to her. I need to get to know her business more. I need to know ways to find her business. And when we got out of the meeting, it's like, okay, I got 4 people I need to contact to see if we can move the dial on.
Well, and we're David, with you with this conversation, there's a few more podcasts we need to do, because just that one of talking about the importance of a one-to-one and the action plan that's coming out of it.
Well, I don't know. I could improve on the one that you did with Andy, so maybe that's not a podcast for me. But
hey, you know what? There's always a different perspective, and that's the beauty of having multiple people around you, because everybody's coming at it from a different perspective and a different stage in their business career.
But, Ed, to tie this back to where we started, the intentionality of the one-to-one was what created these referrals.
Yes. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah.
That we went in, we don't know how to refer to each other. We do know how to refer to each other, but what's a better way to refer to each other? And with that mindset, that open mind, that we are intentionally going to help each other, This was our roadmap that we had set even before we sat down, and that's what led to these potential contacts.
Wow. Okay, David, you and I could go and continue talking forever. With one of the things that we like to do with our guests is if we were to hone it down into a moment, like let's say that we're busy and we only have 60 seconds to think about one powerful thing. For our listeners that are listening or watching, what's one thing that you can leave them away let me get this right. I'm a little tongue-tied. That you'd want to leave them with some important tidbit that, oh my gosh, if this was the one thing I left you with, this is what I'd want to leave you with regarding goal planning, regarding intentionality, and bringing the two together.
So the one thing I think I would leave you with is, how do you want to get where you want to go? Do you want to get there accidentally, or do you want to get there intentionally?
Is there? I'm giggling because it makes me laugh when how many accidental success stories do you hear about? None. It everything again goes back to that intentionality. So I apologize for butting in with the giggles, but it just made me think that statement, that question is incredibly important. Can you share that again?
Sure. How do you want to get to your end goal? Where do you want to be? Do you want to get there by accident, just happenstance? Or do you want to plan? Do you want to be intentional? Do you want to get there because you have a roadmap to get there? And that's the beauty of the goal planning that we do, and that's the beauty of being intentional. And again, not just in business, but keep that in mind for your own personal.
Yeah. For
your own personal life.
You know what? I love that imagery, because we're here in San Diego, right? And there's boats on the water, and it just put an image in my head of someone going into a boat with no sail and saying, let's go down to Mexico with no sail. You're just going to bob in the water until...
Well, the current will take you there.
To some extent, yes. Or it's going to take you in a direction.
Yeah, or you may not even get out of the harbor.
But to me, going back to the intentionality, intentionality is the goal plan. It's the sail that you actually now rise up and actually learn how to position so that the winds take you in the right direction.
That's a beautiful metaphor.
Right? I love that. And David, thank you for this element of intentionality, particularly with goal planning, because as business owners, whether we're in a BNI chapter or not, or just a plain business owner, like there is such a thing. As a business owner, having intentionality and a goal, and you bring them together, or planning it together, that's a powerful force to reckon with.
Oh yeah, definitely. Well, thank you for letting me be here today.
Thank you for joining us again. And for our listeners, we look forward to being back with you next week with another incredible guest on another fantastic topic. I hope you have a wonderful day. And again, David, thank you for being with us today.
My pleasure.
This episode of the BNI San Diego podcast has been brought to you by Cruise Productions, a San Diego-based video production company and proud BNI member. You can find us at the intersection where business and creativity meet, or online at cruiseproductionsinc.com.